Reason number 1. The Spider-Man trilogy films had Peter spitting webbing out of his wrists. If Peter Parker truly exhibited the traits of a spider, it would make more sense for him to spit webbing out of his butt. In Spider-Man Homecoming, he had web shooters instead, which is a better idea. Reason number 2. Not every terrorist is an ex-scientist or a victim of a science experiment gone wrong. The villains in the Sam Raimi trilogy are all science experiments gone wrong, but in Spider-Man Homecoming, Vulture is a regular blue-collar worker with motives that seem much more realistic. Reason number 3. It never made sense why Peter Parker would choose the career of being a photographer for the Daily Bugle in Sam Raimi's trilogy. The newspaper's business has been in a steady decline since 2001, and the first Spider-Man film was released a year after the dip. Peter Parker is smarter in Spider-Man Homecoming and makes his money through Google AdSense by posting his footage online. Reason number 4. This is the first Spider-Man movie where the villain doesn't talk to himself. He eventually gets sent to prison while the other crazy people that talk to themselves in the Sam Raimi trilogy die, which is a good thing since they would never be sent to prison for their crimes since they'd be able to plead insanity, crediting their crimes to the voices in their heads. Reason number 5. Peter Parker's spider sense is straight caca. Every mentor he chooses turns out to be a villain in Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. Norman becomes the Green Goblin, Doctor Octavius becomes Doc Ock, Dr. Connors with the missing arm will eventually become the Lizard, and the symbiote causes Peter to become the bad guy. In Spider-Man Homecoming, his mentor Tony Stark actually teaches him a thing or two on what it really means to be a hero. Reason number 6. It seems like everyone in the Spider-Man trilogy has daddy issues. Peter doesn't have a daddy or uncle. Harry has a daddy who hates him, and this same dad haunts him for the rest of the trilogy.
I look at these words, and it's like my father wrote them.
Mary Jane has a daddy who yells a lot, and Gwen Stacy's dad is disengaged and doesn't even know who she's dating. Only 2 people really have daddy issues in this movie if you want to include Iron Man. I'm not even sure you want to include Vulture's daughter because he only kills and steals to afford a better life for his wife and daughter. Reason number 7. The point of origin stories is to find out how a hero becomes a hero. They dropped the ball in the Sam Raimi trilogy because Peter is already fully experienced in web slinging midway through the movie. You appreciate Peter more in Spider-Man Homecoming because he never fully gets the hang of his powers and probably won't until the end of this trilogy. Reason number 8. I can't stand when Hollywood doesn't hire based on the character's attributes. There's a love interest with dyed hair in all the Sam Raimi films. Just hire a real blonde or hire a real redhead. All the girls in this movie wear their hair natural. It never made sense how even though Peter was a loser in school, all the prettiest girls in the franchise were attracted to him. This never happens in real life. The pretty girls in Spider-Man Homecoming find Peter attractive for the same reasons everyone else in school thinks he's a loser. They like him because of his brains, since they're geniuses too. And they like him because he's awkward, because they're awkward and could relate. Reason number 10. It was always kind of awkward watching Spider-Man take advantage of the hotties in the trilogy. He would kiss them knowing good and well they wouldn't have kissed him if they knew he was Peter Parker. There's no kissing scenes in Spider-Man Homecoming because this Peter Parker has morals. Speaking of hotties, Aunt May is fine in this movie. Reason number 12. There's a funeral scene in every film in the Spider-Man trilogy. What type of hero lets that much people die annually like that? It sucks that the MCU is allergic to killing meaningful characters, but it was refreshing to see a Spider-Man film without a funeral scene for once. Reason number 13. This is the first Spider-Man film where they don't throw Uncle Ben's death all in your face. Collectively, Uncle Ben had more screen time in the Sam Raimi franchise than Venom did, and that's a crime. In Spider-Man Homecoming, they only mention him by name because nobody's interested in his storyline. The storylines we are interested in is the Avengers. That's why it's awesome that Spidey's universe is meshed with the MCU this time around. Sony only had the right to the Spider-Man catalog in these films. Although Spidey is the most popular Marvel character, it gets dull watching a film centered around one superhero. The X-Men films are always better than standalone Wolverine films, and the MCU ensemble films are always better than the standalones. Reason number 15. There's more diversity in this movie than a Crayola box.
Since she's got jungle fever, he's got jungle fever, they've got jungle fever. We're in love.
People of color have never had any meaningful roles in the original Sony trilogy. Reason number 16. I always thought it was weird that Spider-Man never ran out of buildings to web in these movies. It's like every building's a skyscraper. If I were the bad guys, I'd just commit crimes in the suburbs so Spidey couldn't chase me down. In this movie, there's actually a scene where Spidey runs out of buildings and has to foot it all the way to the bad guys. Reason number 17. I was never a fan of how easy it is to be Spider-Man in this trilogy. The movie implies all you need to do do is get bit by a spider. And as long as you work under 20 hours at your part-time job, you too could be an excellent vigilante. In this version, Peter got bit by the spider, but he's also great at science, so he creates his own webbing. He's also good at networking and makes friends with Stark, who gives him a suit that offers a competitive advantage. So it's more than just the bite that makes him Spider-Man. It's the whole package. Reason number 18. I swear Peter's relatives get attacked in every movie. Aunt May gets kidnapped, Uncle Ben gets shot, and a Jehovah's Witness knocks on Aunt May's door and forces her to accept Jesus Christ as her Lord and Savior. Marvel was smart enough to cut the scenes out of the movie where Aunt May was in danger because the audience doesn't really care about those elements, and they tend to drag the film. Reason number 19. New York's public transportation system sucks. There's a scene in every Spider-Man movie where Pete has to save the day. He's literally stretched thin and makes the letter T Jesus pose and always manages to save the day at the end. I like the fact he failed in Spider-Man Homecoming. It's like the MCU is telling the audience, this dude ain't Jesus. And you could appreciate the humanity in his character. Reason number 20. The bullies in these movies are unrealistic. Jocks versus nerds was a thing during the Saved by the Bell era, but in this day and age, this Flash represents a more realistic bully. He picks at Peter because Peter has something that he wants and can't obtain. Respect from the academic decathlon team. It feels real that Flash is a hater because he's just suffering from his own personal insecurities. The bullies in the trilogy are so fake. Flash wouldn't care about Peter in real life because he has friends, the prettiest girl in school, and the fastest car. Why is he worrying about Peter? Why is he worrying about Peter? Peter never shows up to work. I doubt he's going to beat you at photography, Eddie, if he's never there to compete. Reason number 21. Spider-Man quit being Spider-Man in this franchise to focus on his personal life. That's selfish. He didn't have to quit on this movie because he's technically fired. Reason number 22. I know Spider-Man has heightened senses, but I think his blood pressure was heightened when he got bit by the spider too, because he is super emotional and cries for like 10% of the Sam Raimi movies. Sometimes he's even crying for no reason. This Peter Parker cries once, and that's because a building fell on top of him. All of us would cry at that point. Reason number 23. No one notices how Pete is never around the same time Spider-Man is. It's like the Clark Kent syndrome. It's pretty obvious he's Spider-Man. Vulture has common sense and puts two and two together when he figures out Spider-Man's identity the first time they meet. Which is another thing I couldn't stand about the Sony movies. Whenever someone figures out Spider-Man's identity, they gotta die. Harry died, Doc Ock died, Eddie died, and the list goes on. So much people learned Spider-Man's identity in this movie and lived to see another day. Those are 24 reasons these movies are the same. You agree? Yes, no, maybe so? If not, politely share your thoughts in the comment section below and click the subscribe button for more 24 reason videos.
Best elevator music I've ever heard.